Good morning.
Good morning.
Happy December.
It's here.
Happy holidays. Here we are. And I know you're crazy in the salons right now. A good crazy, a good high energy, go get them, feet hurt crazy, right?
Yes.
So we're talking about 2018. And we're doing that internally right now too, which is good. And it's a way to say, okay, do we like the outcomes of last year? Do we want to do things differently? Do we want to have some other outcomes, different outcomes, better outcomes, good, better, best? And how are we going to accomplish that? So that's what we're talking about today.
I was talking about some salons yesterday morning, and it's interesting because sometimes this time of year, what's told to our consultants is how busy everything is, and how busy the salon is, and we're too busy and too busy and too busy. And you know what? I mean, what I said back was, can you imagine Starbucks saying, we're too busy to sell coffee. We're too busy to service. We're too busy. It's like saying we can't do business while a customer's around. It's kind of crazy. This is a good busy. This is a good busy time. But it's also a time when you're setting up February. If we're too busy to do things like set a future reservation, if we're too busy right now to sell take-home, if we're too busy to even have a quick staff meeting to make sure that we're successful with holiday take-home, then we're too busy with kind of some of the wrong things. What I'm going to challenge you to do is that this is a rich time where we have guests around us. Guests are in the business. They're in the business. So we need to make sure that we're firing on all cylinders, that we're able to serve as perfectly as possible, and that we're not overlooking the little details of service, because it's always the little things that make the big difference. And if we aren't, if we're just kind of making the donuts, if we're in that mode of this too shall pass, this is busy, but I can't wait for January or February to slow down and we can catch our breath. You know what? What you're going to catch is slow times. We set that up right now. You are right now setting the table for January, February, and beyond of 2018.
After you said all that, I'm thinking, okay, should anyone ever be in the back of the house right now during this busy time in the salon, busy traffic? It gives us an opportunity to have expediters, people out in either they have to walk the salon floor to see what they can do, or they've got to walk the entry, the take-home area, talking about product, just being there, being present to the guests. And no one shouldn't be full out right now and looking for opportunities to connect and communicate. We've talked about this in the past, but we've got salons now using concierge staff with iPads, walking around, speaking to every guest, talking about the professional recommendation. We'll have that ready for you at the front, rescheduling that next appointment. So all of that can be done, and it creates a buzz because people want to know, why are you talking to her? Okay, my turn next. Let's see how they're going to close out my sale. You know, I was talking at the new dentist that we're going to now, right? We went from a one-man operation to a staff of 50. And before you leave, you meet with someone in a private setting, and she closes out the today and talks about the future appointments as if it's a spa.
Yes, and it's in a private room, and you're both seated.
It's unbelievable, really.
And there's nothing more than a laptop that she's looking into, but it's a very personal way to end a dental experience.
God, the first time I thought, what are we doing?
Yeah, I thought I was buying a car.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I was.
Yeah, that's what I felt like
afterwards.
afterwards. So anyway, the two things that we're going to start with is we're going to start on talking about how do we celebrate 2018 and how do we respond overall on per service provider in 2018 or 17 to prepare for next year. And what are all the victories? I guess the first thing we should start with is we need to talk about the performance outcomes. How many guests did we take care of in 2017? Or actually, how many services did we do? So what was our traffic like? And we want to know what the dollars were, of course, for overall. So let's say we did 300,000 this year, and we did it with 6,000 customers. That would be an average ticket of $50. I mean, when you look at that, is that really our best effort? And based on our menu offerings, should that $50, is that a solid number? Was that a stretch for us? Was that a great performance because our base haircut price is $20? Or is our base haircut $40 and $10 really isn't reflective of what we can do as far as upselling the menu to color and other services? So we need to look at these performance outcomes and write them overall for the salon and per service provider. And as you go down, you're looking at the traffic count, you're looking at the sales dollar and the per guest average and the service dollar, same thing, and take home. Excuse me. You're also looking at the rescheduling percentage overall as a salon and the service per guest ratio. These are the numbers that we want to know. How did we do and how did we fare? And we were watching Goic and Wingo, is that right, this morning? And they were talking about the person that first thing they said is the person that hit the most home runs in Major League yesterday just did a trade with Miami, and now he's going to the Yankees. But every lead-in was about, he is our top home run hitter.
Well, that's the thing. The MVP and top home run hitter just joined the team who had the most home runs as a team last year.
So what's this going to do to us?
The rich got richer.
Yeah, they just got more powerful behind the plate.
But the other thing to take into consideration when you're looking back on 2017 is how many service providers, how many service hours did you offer in 2017
We're going to go there.
compared to 2016?
Yes.
Got to be able to compare apples to apples.
Because so many times we've got room to do more. We're just not planning to do more. So these are our performance outcomes, and that's your basis for your thinking. How did we do? Now, let's do a SWOT analysis quickly. We're not going to spend a lot of time on this, but
Why is the O red?
because I do a red on every single slide, to give it the emphasis, and the O is opportunities. That's why I wanted to highlight that. So on the SWOT analysis, we want to write all of our strengths.
That's what you're saying. You just felt like.
No.
Okay.
But I do it on every single one. What are our strengths for 2000? And some people go, I look at this and I just sit there and stare at the word. Okay. Well, first of all, strength is we are open. That's a good strength, right? And I understand that, but if you have to start basic because you don't know what to do, did we hire anyone this year? Was our scouting and our recruiting efforts at the school, did that bring us some more employees? Did we add some service items this year? Was our energy better? Did we understand our service steps and we tweaked those? Did we create a signature shampoo? Did we enclose our wash house? Those are all really good strengths that people that we know personally accomplished in 2017.
Well, and did you do 20,000 haircuts as a team? Did you do 15,000 color services as a team? It's quantifying, but it's also a strength because there's just. I was speaking with someone. I was speaking with someone on Sunday talking about the fact of that the 10,000 repetitions to create a muscle memory, and then how many thousands of repetitions do you need to maintain it? And so, as a team, you get better and better and better with those repetitions, with the sheer number of haircuts and color services and styling services and so on that happen in the salon. And I think we don't celebrate that sometimes. We take those things for granted. I know when we had a staff meeting on Friday, we were talking about the number of color applications in a particular territory. Just by taking the number of tubes of color times applications in a month that happened in that one consultant's territory, and it's an amazing number. And you have those amazing numbers as well in your businesses. Sometimes we're not thinking that way. You think big picture in order to come down to think little picture on improvements and opportunities.
All right, so what could our weaknesses be? Our weaknesses could be that punctuality is a weakness, or attendance is a weakness.
Sanitation could be a weakness.
Downtime could be a weakness. Teamwork could be a weakness.
Education. I just reviewed a Salon's information, and they literally have had very little, if any, education in the last 12 months.
Well, God bless them. How are you going to fight that? How are you going to fight people that are doing it?
Well, that's the thing, but that's also where that kind of the SWOT analysis in some ways is, it's kind of like being willing to look at the skeletons in the closet or stand naked in front of a mirror.
Yeah.
That's really what it is. What is, and that's what we want to do on this. And again, we've had those moments. We have those moments at PSC as well. This isn't all. I mean, you really have to look at these things each individually. And if you can't identify the weaknesses, how in the world are we going to make them better?
Well, the weaknesses also could be that there's no goal setting, that there's nothing there to
There's
say.
no measurement. Yeah.
Yeah, there's no measurement. What I do is what I do. And if I have guests, I do them. Kind of like when we first met, I said, how many orders are you shipping on a daily basis? And you said,
Everyone that's called in.
everyone that's called in, we're shipping them out. No, how many did you do? And was that a good day? Was that a bad day? I mean, we know everyone is say they're trying to get better every day, but what are the action steps to do that? So when we look at how many haircuts we did, or let's talk about the weaknesses again. A weakness of ours is when we don't have a guest, we don't think we need to be at the salon. That could be a real weakness of ours, right? Our weakness could be social media right now. We don't know how to participate. So when we look at all the things, it's kind of your weaknesses or sometimes your wish list too. I mean, we've got weaknesses here because I don't know how to tackle it, right?
Well, and you know what? In business, weaknesses are usually attached to people, processes, systems, and so on. And the toughest weakness to identify are those weaknesses that are attached to a person. Those are usually the last. We'll work on problems with systems. We'll work on IT problems. We'll work on all sorts of other things before we'll say, hey, you know what? This weakness, that one's all mine, and that's going to be my priority this year. That's the last on the list in a lot of cases, but probably the single most important thing. So I'd ask you to kind of get personal with that. Get personal with yourself. What are those things? I know I'm going to.
So, red for opportunities.
There you go.
We look at the opportunities and the threats. So let's do opportunities first. And some of you could say, wow, I covered the opportunities and my weaknesses. Well, you did, but try to separate the two, because the opportunities for greatness, it could be, in professional athletes, especially golf, you hear about they changed their swing this year. What? They've been playing their whole life and they're going to change their swing 15 years into it. Is there any opportunities of some of the hairdressers on staff need to do more techniques or change something to get better at what they're doing? I can tell you the biggest opportunity that I witness is still the ability to communicate with your guests, learning how to use dialogue that gets the attention of the customer and makes us sound like an expert. You expect something out of an expert. You expect them to talk a certain way, to be able to defend what they do and know the whys and explain the whys behind it. It's not just enough to know it, especially if you have to transfer that to someone else. You have to be able to transfer it with ease. And that's not always the easiest thing to do. Most hairdressers just want to be great with their hands. They want that artistic privacy almost.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not okay in the business. You've got to let the guest in on what you're doing. So that's a huge opportunity, is the way in which we serve, the way in which we speak, and how we communicate with the guest. It's funny. Some people are just natural, have the natural ability to communicate and look in the eyes of someone. And it's becoming less and less of an art. It's not a great gift. I noticed that at the funeral home yesterday,
Mm-hmm.
that people just don't know what to do and what to say and how to say it.
Well, very true. And I think that there's a part of our business. I would never say that our business is easy. I think some of the concepts are simple, but when you start to think that you have to be able to connect your mind and your thoughts to your hands
And transfer
that, and then also connect your heart to your mind, to your hands, all while you're working in your creative brain, and know that that's really what you do for you. But the other part is you have to be at the same time entertaining. You have to be conversational.
Yeah.
You have to be
enjoyable.
engaging
Mhm.
to that guest so that they feel good about what you're doing as well.
Right.
So it's not something that just automatically happens. And I see that. I see sometimes the frustration that leaders have, that owners have in bringing new staff on, because they expect it, but they don't necessarily think about when they had to acquire that talent themselves. We see it all the time with platform artists. There's platform artists that are gifted, unbelievable with their hands, but can't talk while they're doing it, can't engage an audience while they're doing it, can't teach a concept while they're working on a guest. And that's what separates the brilliance of a Robert Cromines from just another guest artist, just another platform artist.
I always give the example of listening to priests. I mean, we know they know it. We know they know the word, we know they know the scripture. But how many of them can't bring the scripture to life, right? And you're in there going, how much longer, right? And that's a terrible thing to say. Then there's others that you say, you're talking to me right here, fourth row from right back here.
They know that.
Yeah, because they made such impact. So that's the difference. And that's what you're looking for. Teaching that contagious exchange of words, exchange of energy. And it could go flatline really easily, very easily. That's what I should have said. Okay, here we go. So threats. What are our threats in 2018? Well, our threats could be our competition. Our threats could be other companies love doing it better than we do. Our threats could be we didn't recruit and hire and we need more staff and we weren't prepared. Our threats is we didn't plan a calendar to set ourselves apart, and we're not great planners. We kind of wing it, and we think we'll be okay if we wing it. That's a threat. It's a threat in every way. If you look at your storyboard for 2000 or your timeline for 2018, that should be at the forefront of your mind as you're preparing for the success of 2018.
Terry, I think the biggest threat right now in business overall, and certainly in the salon business, because this is where it came to me, was thinking about salons and hairdressers. Our biggest distraction, our biggest threat is distraction. And that distraction takes many forms, and it's many different things. It's not one thing that we're distracted by, but what stands in the way of accomplishment, what stands in the way of turning those opportunities and those weaknesses into strengths, is that we get distracted along the way. We're distracted sometimes by our personal life. We're distracted by our phones and social media. We're distracted by somebody saying, hey, this is important, focus on this. We're distracted by someone that we perceive as a competitor. We're distracted by a new hire that didn't show up for their first day of work. We're distracted by people coming in late on a regular basis. We're distracted by a cancellation or a repeat cancellation. And we're distracted by drama. A lot of it ties to drama, but it's a distraction. And they're not real in a lot of cases. A lot of the things we're distracted by are not real, they're manufactured.
Mm-hmm. And so how do we realize that this isn't a distraction that should be getting all this effort and energy from me? How do I put it somewhere else? How do I help people understand? Last night I had to go to the neighbors because I forgot an item at the grocery store, and we were kind of laughing a little bit, and I said, how's that working for you, that distraction? It's an 18-year-old girl that's trying to figure out life. And she said, well, it's not. And I said, then change something. And that's kind of what we're saying here. Figure out what those distractions are and change them. If you give them energy, they'll stay alive and kicking, right? So let's talk about 2018. The biggest thing that we need to do in 2018 is we've got to brand our service, our product, our people, and our facility. I mean, it's not just branding the name, it's got to be branding all these things. And how are we going to give it the attention to create that? So when we look at next year, we've got to be specific. And let me talk about branding really fast. I love that you represent our products, but our products here are to complement the brand you've created in your salon. They're to complement them. They're not the brand. Your salon and your business is the brand. And then you find ways to find companies that complement and help you take your brand to a higher level.
Well, and they say that the definition of branding is what your brand connotes in the mind of your customer.
Mm-hmm.
It's not, the brand isn't an inanimate object. It's an emotional connection. It's what it means in the minds and hearts of your customer, your guest. And so that doesn't happen by accident. That happens through process. That happens through paying attention and being intentional about what it is that we send out there, and then carrying the measure. What we think our brand is doesn't matter. It's what our guest thinks our brand is that matters.
But you also put things in place to help it create a connection with your service, your product, your employees, and your facility. That's why, I mean, just using an easy example of facility is maybe you have you're in 2018 going to do a self-service beverage area and have little amenities there that are individually wrapped, and it's extras that they can make. Maybe a hot chocolate, a hot tea, a hot coffee, and maybe you have a small refrigerator that's got small waters or maybe even beverages. That will help them remember your facility, and it'll help them remember your service. One decision can hit multiples. And I like that. I don't like having to ask. I will, but if it's there for me and I can see it, I'll enjoy it. And I think the airport lounges do a great job of that, just having it available.
And again, just to use as an example, there's a couple of recent examples that I would give you, service experiences that have stuck in my mind. One is we were down, both of these actually took place on our trip to Dallas, Texas. We were at Fogo de Chao for a lunch with our host, our dear friends, John and Janet Turns. And it's obvious, they love that restaurant. First of all, that restaurant is special to them.
We've created memories there with them before.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
But what was impressive is that the staff, from the manager to the service staff, recognized them as a significant customer. Now, the visit from the manager upon arriving there, and that the manager wanted to know who John and Janet were dining with today, and met us and heard a little bit of the story, the attention that the people gave. The food didn't change. The food is the food, and it is wonderful.
It's good.
But it's the people that made that experience memorable. And then the other thing was that we had a breakfast in our hotel, and they had a special hot chocolate on their menu. And I can tell you that how many times have you ordered hot chocolate or coffee, or you're in a breakfast restaurant, you're in a meeting with someone, and the coffee is just part of what happens, and whatever you order is just part of what happens but they celebrated hot chocolate. And
It was a signature.
it was one of their signature things. And the menu spoke it, but then what they delivered made the menu disappear, and what it was came to life. And it was amazing. So it's little stuff. Hot chocolate in a restaurant that made that hotel and that experience memorable.
Yeah.
What are the things in
I
our
could have
business?
that right now.
Oh yeah.
That sounds good.
Well, and you know what's funny is you've changed
The way I do hot
the
chocolate
way
at
you
home
do
now.
hot chocolate at home and here at PSC.
I know. Is that
We've
funny?
made that little bit extra effort. And so that's really what's interesting. And what can you do at the salon level? Is it that, have we gotten bored with the neck and shoulder massage? Have we gotten bored with the wash house experience? Have we gotten bored with the color bar experience? Are we still celebrating it and making it special? Is it a not to be missed experience? Do your people love doing it as much as your guest loves receiving it? That's one of the keys. So we're trying to get rid of this message.
Okay.
Hang on. Remind me
It's
later.
100 degrees in here. Is that
All right.
all right?
So here we go.
All right, so here we go. Let's look at our timeline. Oh, so an opportunity, of course, could be new services. New opportunities could be maybe you're doing hot stone for the neck and shoulder massage. I go to a place to get my brows shaped, and every Wednesday is Red Lipstick Wednesday. And they have these, they just look great, and they all wear their hair slicked back, and that's what they do on Wednesdays. But they have a theme every day, and I love that. The girls all have red, so I've only seen them with red lips on because that's the only day I go. All right, so here's your timeline. Here's January through December, and what are we going to do for our service enhancement systems, our people enhancements, and our facility? And now we're looking at it at a glance. And right now it's blank. We have a clean slate. What are we going to get done in 2018? Are we going to add any services? Do we have any promotions that are happening with people? Are we going to put in a new system, maybe a rewards program? And when you look at this, and this is kind of how I have to see it. Steve carries a lot in his head. Brian does too. I mean, they aren't paper people. I've got to be able to see it to show that I've made progress. And I love being able to see it and share it with other people. And this is how sometimes your threat, especially when you're behind the chair, your threat is your leadership. Your threat because you don't get connected with people. Just because you know it doesn't mean that they understand what you're trying to accomplish. You've got to get with them and meet with them. And with today's world, this should be easier than ever. And we still miss the boat on this. You know, I can think back working for Pillsbury. My updates were at a long distance phone call, which I could barely hear. They were never conference calls. So every call was one at a time. And I would get snail mail. And that's how I was communicated with. Look at the opportunity, and we made things happen. We've got technology now, and we still miss things. It makes no sense to me, right? So how do we make sure our staff says, this is what we're working on in January, February. These are your staff meetings, not talking about dress code. This is our staff meetings. This is how we're going to move forward to get better, to make improvements so our people are noticing it. When Sonia was talking about, after we were together, we were talking about a clinic floor captain that we used to call it. Now it's called a clinic classroom captain in our schools. And Sonia heard that and she said, oh my gosh, I can do that in my salon. Hence came the concierge position, moving them about, helping see and identify and having that presence. Some people say, I can't afford to have that out there. She raised her take home, raised her on-pace delivery of service time. She increased her rescheduling rate. How can you say that? It didn't pay for itself, right? So that's just an example. You're gonna fill this out and in your alone time. And if you ever want help with it, give us a call. So here's our service opportunities. And we're not gonna spend a long time on this because you can go, but I thought if someone doesn't know where to start with this, we can have dialogue enhancements for our concierge team, our support team, meaning our assistants, service providers. There's dialogue enhancements that will increase your service, just that. Service rituals, a welcome ritual to start the service, a farewell ritual to say good day. That's something we can incorporate. It might be something very simple, but your guest will notice. Your service disciplines and the steps of the service. What things do you want to add this year? What are your house specialties for 2018? What's your signature service, kind of like that hot chocolate? And then your service presence. How are we going to step in and lean into our guest more? All of these things listed just on this page And this is the way in which we serve, not our services. Those services that we offer is kind of our product. This is just the way in which we serve. You know, we did an event the other night for the school in Rockdale, our whole staff, and we call it Christmas in Rockdale.
Elementary school.
And it's something that from 5:30 to 7:30 we go over and we spoil the people of the area. And everyone knows their assignments when we go into it. I'm in the kitchen, and I'm also a floater. Brian, where were you?
Wasn't there?
Oh, sorry. You know, that didn't work, what I just said. But we had the point is everyone knew where they were supposed to be. And when the traffic hit, it wasn't a huddle when the traffic hit. It was discussed and planned ahead of time. And PSC provides free hot dogs and popcorn and cookies, and they decorate frames, and Santa is there. So there's a line for Santa, and we take photos, and we make reindeer food and sparkles for the snow, and the kids have activities the whole time. There's no way we could pull that off if we just got there. First of all, it's all the setup, it's all the tear down, and it's everything in between. That takes a plan. That's what's being done every single day. We do that during grand openings, but we stop to lose those disciplines as the business continues to just make the donuts every day. So what are our service opportunities to make us look more engaged? While we were there, and we learned this last year, we had our water and our hot dog and popcorn full. In a few minutes, I noticed our bottleneck was at the popcorn area. We had to move some things around to make it flow easier. What do you need to move around to make your service flow easier, whether it's the check-in or check-out? Someone's got to be paying attention to say, wow, if we just move this over here, we wouldn't have this situation right now. So you watch the customer's reaction, and it'll help your branding. That's just in service. You want to say anything to this? Because you've done some things in the school with this, whether communicating at 10, 12, check-in times. We've talked about that in the past.
Nothing that comes to mind that you haven't covered.
Well, and I also think about what are also service opportunities is we can start making sure that we're posting our stats at noon. Maybe we're posting them at 3. Maybe we're posting them at 6. And talking about how many guests we have in, how many more appointments we brought. And service opportunities is to respond. So you've got to know what these scores are throughout the day.
Biggest thing I think that it helps for everyone to know is more so than the number of guests that have checked out. That's your scoreboard. That's your history.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's more important to know how many people are in the business right now and how many people are yet to check in. That's your opportunity.
And when are you going to get hit? I mean, if everyone knows, hey, 3 o'clock, we have an issue here. I've got a salon that we've been working with, and I've made reference to them in the past. And they do a 9 to 3 and a 3 to 9 shift. And their bottlenecks were happening at that 3 o'clock hour. And so we had to say, what are we going to do so the guest, we're not apologizing for 3 o'clock if someone ran over or someone's late or whatever. They had to figure out how to make that change smoother so the guests didn't feel part of the problem and feel guilty that they're there. So when you and I losing my train of thought on that. Oh, when are you going to get hit in the salon? When is the most people going to start to arrive? And what do you do differently during that time? Do you bring the greeter around? You have one person checking in, the other one just entertaining and on a clipboard, hi, I'll announce you, great, great, great. And so the other person's literally just checking in and the other one is entertaining. That might help during high level check-in times. Product opportunities. We have our take-home product mix. What additions are we doing this year? We know even the manufacturers that we represent, we've got some great creative things that are happening in 2018. We need to start to have those conversations with you so you can plan them on your timeline. You've got to create the movement of these additions and create the movement of, it's kind of a movement when we get excited about something. Hairdressers love new, so they start using it on everyone, right?
Well, and again, how can we do things on purpose? I mean, that's the biggest thing. I still can't believe that Apple can make a bigger deal out of a product rollout on an electronic object and make that better, a bigger deal than we make out of beauty.
I thought some things happened. Hollywood Hair did a beautiful job teasing people about their holiday night.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it was just good.
Well, you know what?
So do some social media things saying coming in October is this.
I saw something and when you're talking next, I'll pull it up, but I'll tell you what it is first. When we were in Starbucks earlier than Thanksgiving, earlier than they put out their holiday for display, Starbucks doesn't have storage. So when they ship stuff in, it's kind of in the way until they change their displays and make it part of it.
Mm-hmm.
So what they did this year was they sent in their holiday and it sat in the corner, kind of where people queue up to get their stuff. And on the box, there was a big sticker that said, "Do not open until," and then they had their rollout date. But underneath that, in the biggest letters, was, "Anticipation is half the fun."
Oh,
Now, isn't that a great way to draw your guest into the fact that holiday decoration, holiday product and merchandise is going to be displayed soon. They know when it's going to go
I
out,
love that.
and it's beautiful. And Terry, while you're talking, I'll pull up. I took a picture of it
So-
because I love it.
So when you look at the take-home product mix, the additions, creating a movement in the salon, you do it with teasers. Tease the customer. Have a little fun with it. What is your professional mix going to look like in 2018? Do you have expert status? What education is going to be needed? Are they giving a professional recommendation with confidence? Once again, we're branding and complimenting your salon. If we're not strong on these things in 2018, or we're got comfortable and don't want to give extra effort, then we're going to be at risk of someone else doing it better than we do. Once again, Steve got that idea. We should have brought it into PSC immediately. Once you feel something and it feels great, incorporate that somehow to your business. Of course. So here's people opportunities. We've got performance reviews that we need to do probably in January because it's a little slower. Has anyone qualified to move up a level? Because that's going to affect their outcomes and their goals because their prices should go up. What are we doing for scouting and recruiting and being present to available talent out there? And I still think we have every intention of scouting hairdressers. We just don't have it on the list. And you know, I've got salon owners that have to schedule recruiting on it. They put in, I said, they said, what would you do? I said, I'd put it as a service type. And then when I brought up my schedule, it says, oh my gosh, I'm recruiting at the school this day. It's just right on my schedule. Because if you're going to get to it when you can, it's like cleaning the basement. When are you going to do it?
Well, in Millennium, it's called a work activity. Set up recruiting as a work activity and schedule it.
You could do it as a service type too. At the end of the year, let's say we did 3,000 haircuts and we did one recruiting event. But you know what? You deserve that kind of outcome. You've got to put more effort into it than that. And once again, we want to find the right people. Find the right people that will bring something special to the business. Do we know right away? No. Do we do 30, 60, 90-day reviews to see if they're making the grade? We all talk how they do. I say to everybody, how they doing? How are they doing? How are we feeling about them? How's it going? Do they have the energy? And sometimes they, I don't know. Did you have that conversation with her? Because she probably thinks we're thrilled and we're not yet. Make sure you're helping brand them to your business. Next one. Here's facility. Very easy. Are we expanding this year? Are we arranging? And then rearranging again. I guess I had that twice. Are we painting this year? Are we lighting? Where's our placement? What's our take home look like? And I want it to look different. And you've got to think of what opportunities do we have. And some of you say, you know what? I mean, we're open 64 hours a week. I don't have time for this. And maybe you're open too many hours, so you do have time for some of this. You've got to be able to have time to work on your business. Nordstrom isn't doing it during working hours. They're doing it from midnight to the morning. That's when they're rearranging and doing all their things. We don't have that luxury. So we better have hours that allow us to work and create facility opportunities so we can brand our business.
Well, and think about things too. I mean, look at this cup right now from Starbucks.
Oh my God, he's married to Starbucks.
Well,
Starbucks
just
and
because
Apple.
It's a great example. If Starbucks had, if their guests put a cape on to drink their coffee,
What would it look like?
do you think it would look solid color and never change throughout the year? Or do you think it would change every time their initiatives change? They have a cup and they change the cup. They have a sleeve on a cup and they change that in conjunction with. You can say, well, they're a big company, they can afford to do that. You know what? It's so easy to do a personalized cape. It's so easy to have a theme when you launch
It
something.
could be Happy Holidays.
It could be
Merry
anything.
Christmas.
It could be give good.
Give good.
It could be give back. It could be black is the new give. But we're not doing enough of that.
Oh, I
as
love
a
that.
group.
Favorite idea today just happened. Favorite idea. And when you look at it, we put those in, we fold them up, we put them away. But what do our capes look like? We look at them as a paper covering in the doctor's office that you're just going to, every guest gets one, who cares, right? One of the things that we did in 2018 is, here's our calendar for 2017. Trisha's getting ready to bring out 2018. But everything we do uses this image all year long. Even if we're putting our holiday hours on the front door, it's with this image. If we're making an announcement, it's with this image. So the whole image is branded for 2017. And I don't know who she's chosen yet for next year, but that means everything we do will now change to that one. And it's something to help us be connecting with you. And I thought that would really help. So keep that in mind too. You could use an image. You can even have your cape. So let's just look at really easily for 2018. Let's pretend this is from an actual salon, very close, I rounded up, but they were doing 2017 proved 6,500 customer services. They did 6,500 customers with multiple services. And so some of those guests are in 18 times a year, some guests 5 times a year, but they did 6,500 appointments in 2000, right? 17. And this salon averaged 125 customers per week. I took the 6,500 divided by 52, 125. Total dollars they did was $344,500 with a per client average ticket at $53. Service dollars was $325 with an average ticket of $50, and their take home was $19.5 with an average take home of $3. Because you count not just the people that bought, but you take the $19.5 divided by the 6,500 because there's opportunities there. They're rescheduling at 42%, their chemical percentage 28, not doing much color. Currently, they have 8 chairs. They're open 44 hours a week. So 8 times 44 in the left-hand corner is they have available to do hair hours, 352 hours per week. Current team, look it over there. 5 employees are scheduled, even though we have 8 chairs, and they're only scheduled 160 hours per week of the 352 possible. So we're at 47. First thing, you haven't seen this yet. What are all the opportunities you see? Just thinking of that.
Well, I can tell you what the threats are.
Mm-hmm.
The threats are, you've got, in those 5 employees, you've probably got 2 that are carrying the majority of the guest count and 3 that are building. And we have to build traffic in that business. 47% occupancy doesn't get it. So we've got to project that. Hopefully our team that's building is ready to grow, and we're ready to kind of unleash them and allow them full opportunities. So we've got to build traffic count. So traffic count is the first thing. In addition to that, the overall dollar, there's huge opportunity there. It worries me that we're 28% chemical percentage in an era where chemical percentage is anywhere from 40 to 60% of the overall volume. So we're not talking up the menu. We're doing enough color. We're doing way too much haircut only in this situation. Rescheduling percentage.
Or not charging.
Yeah, or we're not charging for what we're doing. That could be it too. We're just giving the service way too much through discounting. The other thing is rescheduling percentage. Quite honestly, our schools do we do better than 42% in rescheduling. So that's a technique that has to be taught, trained, rehearsed, and implemented at a higher scale.
Okay, so here's all the action items. We evaluate. I started with 47 scheduled. Are the hours of operation solid? Can anyone schedule more hours currently? And we've got someone working 40, another employee 40, a 32, a 28, and a 28, 168 hours.
Well, yeah, and here's what happens with that. It's no wonder they're not scheduled for more hours than that, because they're not busy those hours when they're there. And when you think about the way a salon thinks, you've got the owner that's usually slammed behind the chair. If they are a working hairdresser, they're slammed. They can't imagine how somebody wouldn't work 40 hours or how somebody wouldn't want to stay there when they don't have a guest. But that's coming from a person who has a guest every second of every day. You blink your eyes and the day is over. They aren't busy like you're busy. And it's got to become a concern. It's got to become a priority to build that traffic.
Well, and here's the thing too. When that owner is that slammed, which they are in this case, what is the leadership's influence on a daily basis?
Minimal.
Probably.
By example, by example, by example.
Exactly
and hope
right.
that they get it. Hope they're watching.
And so you've got to either insist that they're on the floor with you, and when they're not with a guest, they're with you. Dollar per guest in service and take home is weak. I mean, when you look at $50 per guest in a day where color is absolutely celebrated, that $50 is not acceptable. And you look at take home, I mean, we've got to work on service dialogue, take home dialogue. We need goals per service provider and create signature services. And, $3 per guest, heck, my mother could do $3 per guest and she's not a hairdresser. We've got to find a way to celebrate who we are and what we are in the front of the house. It doesn't happen on its own. Guests want attention and they want knowledge. So obviously, in this situation, they're not confident, because when people are confident, they talk. And when they're not confident, they're quiet. So we've got to talk about rescheduling dialogue, and you've got to say, we're going to say this to every guest. It's going to hurt, but we're going to say it. We've got to get chemical education in there to create confidence, because obviously they're not doing color because maybe we didn't expect them to be experts at it. We've got to hire additional team members. Currently, they don't have a front desk member. So the front desk needs to schedule and facilitate. One of the reasons we're not rescheduling is because it's not an admin person up there that's creating it. All the people standing around are doing the front desk work too. Hire 3 40-hour hairdressers over the next year. January, bring one in, June, September. And if the other ones aren't busy, maybe they're not going to make it. And we also have to create an expedited training program. These are the action items just based on the numbers you saw. And here's what we could look at. I mean, when you look at going from 125 guests per week to 158, that's not a lot. And it would take us to 8260. If we can get our PCA from $53 to $62, I just did a $9 increase. That's not unrealistic, especially if we brought our chemical
Especially
percentage
when the
up.
number's low.
Yeah.
When the number's low to begin with. That's not. I would almost expect more.
So look at, we went from 344 to 512,000, 470. I only took the take home. We've got people doing $30 per guest in take home. They're doing 10%. I took it to 5, and look what it does to 41,000.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so, in rescheduling percentage, by year end with additional hires on the service floor asking for 4 more hours from existing team, we might ask them, can you give me some more hours? They might not do it because you never asked, right? And if we can get some of them up for 4 more hours, instead of being a 28-hour, maybe a 32, and the one that's 32, take them to 36, we just got 16 more hours of service opportunity. Plus, taking those new hires and helping them accomplish. And now we have to go to the topic that most people hate, is deadline leadership. This is our last slide. if you go back one, here's our action items. You've got to throw deadlines to all of that. Now, what time is it, Brian? How am I?
4 minutes.
4 minutes. This is tough when you're the boss. This is the toughest when you don't have to answer to anybody else. When you can, I don't feel like getting that done today. How can you hold? If you want those results, you've got to put these in place, and you've got to set up disciplines to accomplish that.
And the final thought again is returning to the thought of, in life, you're either going to have the pain of discipline. Discipline is a pain. Doing something different than the way you've always done it is painful. Or you're going to have the pain of regret. And some of us at the end of 2017 look back on 2017 and are feeling the pain of regret. We didn't accomplish quite as much as we had hoped, quite as much as we had planned, quite as much as we thought we would when we set up our opportunities and goals for 2017. And so we live in that pain of regret. That's the way life is. You're going to have it. So pain of discipline. Get clear on what it is that you want to accomplish in 2018. Get clear on it. Understand what your strengths, your weaknesses, your opportunities, and your threats are. Plan to be different in 2018, and then work your plan. Embrace the pain of discipline and watch the results that will bring about plenty of opportunity to celebrate in 2018.
It's tough. Any questions or comments to us, Brian? I mean, how do you fit it in when you're not fitting it all in now? And I don't know, you've got to know what needs to be done today. And I think I learned it from the banquet industry, because I couldn't say, 47 people, hey, we decided not to set up for you tonight, right? I mean, when you've got event after event, and these people are having lunch, tear it down, bring this up for a group for dinner, I really learned, where do I have to be at 5 o'clock to be ready for them at 5:30? What are all the things I have to do? And it really gives you action items. I'm probably stronger on project items than I am on conceptual. He's stronger on conceptual than he is on project. And that sometimes can get in your way, especially if you are carrying all the productivity of the salon.
Mm-hmm.
That's tough. I mean, good. Can you think of it? Do you have anything to say on that? Because you can relate to that.
Well, it's a process. Be honest with yourself. It's a process. Know what your strengths and weaknesses are. If that's a weakness, work on it. A little acronym that helps is constantly be asking yourself, if you want to win is WIN, and it's what's important now. What's important now for me to do in order to set up.
Well, and the last thing I'm going to say on this is Christmas comes every year, and it's not easy. How do we get it all done? I mean, it's not easy. I'd rather have a little bit of Christmas all year round versus throw it all right in there in December. But we do. And how do we get the tree up? And how do we get everything done? And how do we get celebration with our customers? And how do we get all the Christmas cards out? And how do we? And we do, because deadline leadership. That's why it happens. Because Christmas isn't going to become December 31st. It's the 25th, and all these things have to be done ahead of time. You've got to run your businesses and look at those dates for yourself. And you go back to that timeline. This is our time to be able to wish you the happiest of holidays. And we really hope you get time to enjoy your family and friends and make some memories.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Happy holidays.